Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the GC Children's Conference Day 2. I'm Monica Shrestha from Q Design, and I'm accompanied by my colleague Adish Karam. We will be your technical facilitators today. Please note that the session today is recorded and live streamed. We also have interpretation in Spanish, Portuguese, Nepali, and English today. To turn on interpretation, please click on the globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom window and select language of choice. To ensure that the interpretation is effective, when you're speaking, please make sure to speak slowly. If you have any questions about Zoom or require technical assistance, please feel free to raise your hand or drop a message into the chat box. I will now hand over to Reina. Reina, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica, for that technical introduction and for setting up everything so professionally for us. Welcome everyone to this second session of our second session from yesterday. It's lovely to see all of your faces again. We covered a lot yesterday. Some really fascinating points were made, and I was speechless after the event, really, to see how much effort and contribution has gone into the preparation by the children for their contribution. So thank you, first of all, very much for everything that you've done yesterday. We still got quite a lot ahead of us, but luckily I think the schedule won't be as packed as yesterday. I want to start with just drawing attention to the fact that we have a child protection and safeguarding person with us today. Her name is Sanjana Kunwar, and I do ask to please put your email address in there in the chat, Sanjana, so that if anybody notices anything that they do not like, that they can immediately contact you to make you aware of that. We also have a Padlet, as I mentioned yesterday already, where there is a lot of information, especially on everything that happened yesterday. But the safeguarding policy is also there if you should want to have a look, also the child-friendly version of that. So please do visit the Padlet as well. I want to immediately ask Victor Karunan just to give us a few words of welcome, and also my colleague from the Right Livelihood, Alex Repenning, to also just say a few words. I'll hand over to Victor, who will then hand over to Alex. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Raina, and welcome everyone. Day 2 of the conference. So I hope you think about what we discussed yesterday and bring that into our discussion today. So welcome all of you. Welcome the experts who are with us and the other organizations. So today we're going to take one step further in the journey that we started many months ago. You remember, we were on national consultations. We reached the point of the international conference. And now we have to take that one step further, from discussion to action. Now, what that means is that we would like you to spend some time today to think about, after all the discussion we had yesterday, all the excellent views, opinions, perspectives that children experts shared, what do we need to do? What are the actions that we need to take forward? So today, the whole session is shaped to determine what are the action points that you children are proposing that we take forward as a result of the conference. Now, we know that this is not easy. Mental health, we know, is a sensitive issue. It is a neglected issue. It needs urgent attention. So we can do that only in partnership between children and adults, between children and parents, children and teachers, children and government, and so on. So I hope we keep that in mind as we move into the day-to-day. Regina, our child delegate from Nepal, did a short exercise when we began the session this morning. And I think it's very helpful. What I'd like you to do is, can you think of one word that captures yesterday? And put that in the chat. So we know how you feel about yesterday. Go to chat, and one word that captures what you felt about the session yesterday when we discussed the 3 topics of mental health. So please go ahead, a few minutes to go ahead and put your points, a word that means something to you personally about yesterday. Resourceful, insightful, inspirational, fruitful, meaningful, productive, awareness, encouraging, incredible, amazing, nervous. Christoph, I need translation. Nervous, empowering, leadership, motivated, etc. Yeah. So that gives us some idea as to how we felt. Yeah. We felt motivated. We felt inspired. We learned so much from those ideas, but we also had questions. We also had some concern as to how we're going to deal with this complex problem of mental health. So let's start with that. And that's my welcome to you today. We have an important job to do today, which is to take us through a process by which you sit down in your country groups and talk about what do we need to do, who needs to do what, and how can we help you as children to address your concerns and your challenges on mental health. So with that, thank you very much again, and back to Raina.
Thank you so much, Victor. I can only second what Victor was saying, that we've got a lot ahead of us today, but something really doable. And in the workshop today, this conference is taking a form of a little bit more of a workshop. But all of this would not have been also possible without our kind of wonderful colleagues at the Right Livelihood, who really supported us in setting up this entire conference. So I would like to give word to Alex Repenning just to tell a little bit about the cooperation, because he's not had the floor yet during this conference. So please, Alex.
Thank you so much, and regards from Geneva, saludos de Ginebra. I am very honored to be able to share with you a little bit from Right Livelihood, who, as you heard, is cooperating with the Global Campus for now more than 3 years. And we had from the very start a focus on children's rights and particularly children's participation. And this is really why I feel it is a milestone today and yesterday to have this international conference, which is a format that the Global Campus is holding regularly now as a child-led event. So I'm very happy from that perspective. And I will share a little bit about what Right Livelihood is about. So we are an award, and we are also a support organization. So we give an award to change makers in the field of human rights and also environment every year. And we continue to support them throughout their lives in long-term support. And we see this as a contribution to finding solutions for the pressing problems of our times that you are so well aware of. One of them, of course, being mental health, but also so many other pressing problems that are affecting the mental health of people and the livelihoods of so many people around the world. So we have been doing this for over 40 years, and we now have a network of award recipients from more than 70 countries on all continents. And we really try to bring together these experiences from all fields of action and all regions of the world and from different generations together. And so it is very much in the same spirit that we are coming here together, that we try to bring together change makers from all ages. And for me, this conference is really one example how we can foster participation and leadership of groups that often have not been heard in the past in finding the solutions for the way forward. And I will share with you the link about our organization in the chat if you want to find out more about our education work, about our support work, our work here in Geneva at the United Nations. And I'll leave it like I leave it here and want to say thank you again for your leadership in making this happen.
Thank you so much, Alex, for that. And absolutely the last words there for your leadership. It's something that I think it's a major aspect of the last 6 months that we've been working together, really setting up this consultations where you take the leadership on what needs to be talked about and how we need to take action. And we really want to continue with that, not only today, but also beyond today. And the first step towards that would be our breakout sessions with where you as the children later on will come up with certain plans how we can take things forward beyond this conference. Before I hand over to my colleagues in Chile, I would like to just quickly play a video from the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who sent we've been sent a message where he talks about mental health and violence against children, which is very relevant for what we're doing. Please, Monica.
Half of the world's children experience violence in some form every year. It occurs in many settings, both online and offline. And violence has devastating and lifelong consequences for children's mental health. But mental health services have long suffered from neglect and underinvestment. Too few children get the services they need. The COVID-19 pandemic has magnified the problem. Millions of children are out of school, increasing their vulnerability to violence and mental stress, while services have been cut or moved online. As we consider investing in a strong recovery, support for children's mental well-being must be a priority. I also urge governments to take a preventive approach by addressing the determinants of mental well-being through robust social protection for children and families. Mental health and psychosocial support and community-based approaches to care are integral to universal health coverage. They cannot be its forgotten part. I also urge those in authority to take children's views and experiences into account. Children play an important role in supporting each other's mental well-being. They must be empowered as part of the solution. Let's work together for sustainable, people-centered, resilient societies where all children live free from violence and with the highest standards of mental health. Thank you.
So one thing that I heard from that message was the sentence that children need to be inspired and empowered to take action. I would formulate it a little bit differently in the context of our conference here today. I would actually say that you as young people are actually empowering us with your perspectives in order to help take things forward. So we're learning a lot from you, and we want to learn much more from you over the coming months and years. And with that thought, I'd like to give over to Antonio and Saori, as well as to Santiago. Please, the floor is yours for a quick summary of the last day. You're not unmuted, just
Ahí sí. Hola. ¿Sí? Ya.
Sí, sí.
Primero que todo, muy buenos días. Gracias otra vez por estar acá, la invitación. Mi nombre es Saori Vera Eulogio, tengo 16 años, soy vocera del colectivo Sin Fronteras y vengo representando a Chile. Pues estoy acá con mi compañero, perdón, Anton.
Hola, bueno, buenas a todos. Me presento de nuevo, me llamo Anthony, soy vocero del colectivo Sin Fronteras y represento a Chile.
Bueno, el día de ayer estábamos conversando sobre los subtemas que hemos tenido, sobre el tema principal que es salud mental. Trabajamos en 3 mesas, debatimos y todo muy bacán, y el día de hoy les venimos a traer un pequeño resumen, puntos a considerar para la conferencia de hoy, asamblea. Bueno, primero que todo, el primer punto, la salud mental de los niños y niñas es uno de los temas más olvidados. La salud mental debe identificarse como un servicio para salvar vidas para niños, niñas y jóvenes y adolescentes. Necesitamos lidiar con problemas culturalmente específicos relacionados con la salud mental. Estos incluyen antecedentes familiares, normas sociales, actitudes, región y comportamientos.
Pasando al punto 4, la salud mental es un derecho de todo niño, niña y adolescente como lo es para los adultos. La salud mental afecta de manera diferente a niños, niñas y debemos centrarnos en los adolescentes. Necesitamos cambiar de una mentalidad negativa a una mentalidad positiva. Ahora le doy pase a señor Santiago, cofacilitador Santiago, para que continúe los puntos.
Gracias, Anthony y Saori. Bueno, soy Santiago del equipo de niñez del Campus Global para América Latina, y siguiendo un poco de los puntos a considerar para el día de hoy, los niños y niñas tienen una mirada única, por lo que sus opiniones y aportes son críticos y deben ser tomados en cuenta. Los maestros, los padres, los gobiernos y los propios niños y niñas deben actuar sobre los desafíos de la salud mental que enfrentan la niñez. Y bueno, ¿cómo lidiamos con el desafío de la competencia nociva y todos los temas que se relacionan con la salud mental de niños y niñas? Ahora devuelvo a Anthony y Saori para recordar brevemente los puntos principales que discutimos en la sesión con los demás niños de ayer, hablando de los 3 subtemas que trabajamos: la falta de mecanismos en la educación para la salud mental, el impacto de las violencias en la salud mental y también la competencia nociva. Anthony y Saori. Si pueden desmutear. Sí. ¿Ya finalizaron? ¿O no logran desmutearse? Perdón.
Monica, please, can you mute them?
¿Ahora sí? Es que no nos dejaba desmutearnos, perdón.
Perfecto.
Pues continuando con lo que decía Santiago, uno de los principales puntos es la ausencia de recursos económicos del Estado, de los estados, y de personal calidad y con espacios bien capacitados para atender la salud mental de niños, niñas y jóvenes y adolescentes. También la necesidad de aprovechar las redes sociales para contribuir al espacio y obtener charlas entre niños, niñas, jóvenes para poder educarnos sobre problemas de salud mental y apoyarnos mutuamente en diversas partes del mundo. También se debe enseñar a los niños, niñas y adolescentes sobre los derechos reproductivos, el tema de la salud mental, para que más adelante tengan la oportunidad de comprender adecuadamente ciertos temas y desarrollar bien físicamente y mentalmente el desarrollo.
El segundo subtema es el impacto de la salud mental en la violencia contra niños, niñas y adolescentes. Los puntos principales incluye el delito cibernético, la degradación ambiental, los matrimonios infantiles, el trabajo infantil, el acoso sexual, la brutalidad policial, la mutilación genital femenina, el terrorismo y la radicalización, la violencia entre pares y castigo corporal, la discriminación, la exclusión, los cambios en la continuidad de la protección de los niños, niñas y la niñez privada de libertad. También hay ausencia de servicios de protección para proteger a niños, niñas y adolescentes, incluidos el mecanismo de cumplimiento, protección de los derechos de privacidad, capacitación de expertos, lucha contra la impunidad y enjuiciamiento de los perpetradores. También está la ausencia de clubes sociales y de la salud para niños y niñas, donde se les puede enseñar a identificar y luchar contra la violencia.
Ya, el último tema tiene ciertos puntos principales de la tercera mesa: competencia no activa y salud mental. No, nociva, perdón. O sea, no, competencia no, bueno. Desigualdad social y competencia desleal. Los padres y maestros comparan a los niños y niñas de manera patológica sin dejar el margen para el desarrollo y la mejora. Los niños, niñas y adolescentes enfrentan mucha presión sobre cómo viven y cómo logran el éxito en su vida, por temas de comparación y eso. Y terminaríamos con el resumen del día de hoy. Muchas gracias otra vez por la invitación, gracias por dejarnos participar y la oportunidad, y eso, muy buen día y que la conferencia sea igual que ayer o mejor.
Excelente, Saori y Anthony, muy buen resumen del día de ayer. Eso nos ayuda bastante para lo que vamos a seguir ahora, que es dividirnos en grupos por país, región. Tenemos un grupo con Ecuador, Chile, otro de Brasil, otro de Nepal y de Sudáfrica. Bueno, tenemos algunas interrogantes que nos van a apoyar para pensar todos esos puntos que ustedes nos recordaron de ayer, que es pensar primero lo que hay que hacer. ¿Y a qué nivel? ¿Global, regional, nacional o local? También pensar qué necesita hacer, quién necesita hacer qué. Por ejemplo, el gobierno, ONGs, sea la familia o expertos. También necesitamos preguntarnos para pensar un plan de acción, es ¿cuándo hay que hacer esto? O sea, ¿de qué manera, cómo podemos planear? Y por fin, ¿qué pueden aportar los niños, niñas, adolescentes, jóvenes a este punto de acción? Estas interrogantes son importantes para pensarnos ahora en los grupos cómo vamos a trabajar. Un muy buen día de trabajo a todos. Devuelvo la palabra a Reina.
Thank you very much for all three of you for that very comprehensive summary. That I'm sure will be also very useful for everybody and all the young people who now will be going into the groups. We have put together what Santiago has already neatly summarized, a document that I'll be sharing in the chat now, that would hopefully help you in putting your ideas together in the breakout group. And in order to facilitate and create more clarity before we break out, I ask Victor Karunan just to also say a few words about the breakout sessions, which will be a private for children only. So us adults will have a bit of a break of 40 minutes, but I'll get to that as soon as Victor has finished his introduction to the session.
Thank you. Thank you, Reina. So as Santiago mentioned, we are now going to go to the next session, which is the most important part of today, which is the breakout groups of the children. You will be meeting in your country groups to talk about the action plans. So as you know, yesterday we talked about 3 topics and we had discussion and many good ideas came up. And there were also some suggestions and action points that people mentioned yesterday. So today, in this session, what we're going to do is this. So just some tips for you to think about as you go into your breakout groups in the next 30 minutes. Now, maybe you might ask yourself the question, why do we need an action plan after a conference like this? What's the importance of an action plan? Like I said earlier, we need to convert the great discussion, the rich discussion we had yesterday into action points, because that's important. Having just a discussion without action doesn't make any sense. Yeah. That we need to help you as children and young people to take action on mental health in your own situation, in your family, in your school, in your community, among your peers, in your social media. You've laid out on the table all the problems we faced. Now the question is, what do we do about that? We also need the action plan so that we, as a support, the global campus, the partner organizations, the experts, the adults who were part of the conference yesterday and today, can then decide how can we support these children in what they want to do. But also an important reason for an action plan is it gives us a basis to go to other children, go to organizations, go to networks and say, we had this conference in Nepal, 2022. We spent months having national consultations. This is our plan. Will you support our plan? Yeah. So it gives us a basis to talk to partners, get the support, get the technical, financial, or whatever support that we need. And particularly important in that is to talk to other children. Now, we know there are many children, and I know in America Latina, you have amazing amount of children's organizations networks. In Nepal, in Brazil, in South Africa, etc. Yeah, so how can we bring these networks together? So that is what the action plan is about. Now, my amigo Santiago already summarized this format. Thank you, amigo. Yeah. So you already have a table which says, put your country and region. Then you take each of the topics and you talk about what needs to be done, who needs to do what, when, and what can children contribute. So I won't say more on that. Yeah. So you will then now break up for about 30 minutes or so into your country groups. So Ecuador, Chile, group 1, Brazil, group 2, Nepal, group 3, and South Africa, group 4. You will go into the groups, and for all the participants, let me be very clear. This is the children's breakout group. So only children and the regional global campus child rights officers are allowed into the groups. Yeah. So the breakout groups are children with the regional support staff, who will then discuss in the next 30 minutes and try to come up with some points. Now, we know we don't have much time. So for each of the topics, can you come up with just 2 or 3 action points? That's enough. Yeah. And then try to fill up as much as you can the other columns, which is what needs to be done, who needs to do what, and what can children contribute. So when we come back, either you can present the matrix. If you have it on your computer, you can share screen. We'll give you the privilege of doing that. Or you can just present it verbally through audio, and feel free to present it as creative as possible, so that at the end of that, we can then look at it, and then the next session will be to ask for responses from our experts and adults who are there, so we can have a dialogue to take the action point forward. Yeah, I've also left a last column at the bottom. Any other areas, because we only talked about 3 topics. There might be other topics that you want to also talk about, but please feel free to add other action points as well. So that's all I want to say. Now, any questions on this matrix and the work we do in the breakout groups for the next 30 minutes? Any questions? Please raise your hand and we can clarify. So we've got a few minutes before we go into the breakout groups. We have shared the the matrix, the table with the regional focal points, and they will bring it to the group, and you can work on it with them in your session for the next 30 minutes. Yeah. All good?
Excellent. So,
okay, so over to Raina.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Victor. If I could just ask all the children in the group at the moment just to raise your name so that you pop up to the front of the list so we can see who you are, and in order to put you into the various groups. So if I can kindly ask every one of the children here to put their hands up, and then we'll arrange you into the different breakout groups. Excellent. Brilliant. Do let me know, Monica, if there are any problems with identifying who needs to be in which group, and we will clarify. Got a long list there. So while she's doing that, I'm just going to clarify for our adult participants. We have now a break for us for about 40 minutes. The children are going to discuss in their groups for 30 minutes, and then there's going to be a 10-minute break. And after that, they'll come back and report back to us what they've discussed. And at that point, we would really like to open the floor to everybody here, the experts that have been invited, as well as any of the other participants to input into what they present to us as well. But for now, I also want to just remind you of the Padlet that we have put together, that we'll also put in the chat. Please do perhaps take this opportunity to look into the Padlet, add any thoughts that you think are relevant, because that's a kind of a living document that we're creating as a part of the participation of an intergenerational discussion that we're trying to set up. But for now, I'll be putting myself on mute. And as soon as you hear my booming voice again in about 40 minutes, I would really kindly ask you to return and to listen to what the children have come up with. Thank you so much.
Reina, we have someone named Azwi who is not on the list.
Can I just ask you to identify yourself as if Asvi? I can't see your whole name now, sorry, from South Africa. I can see the